Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at something very exciting, something I call viewport, away tabs and tabs content. You know, working with tabs can be very tricky, especially when it comes to mobile responsiveness and also when it comes to how you want to display your content. So having options as to how you can implement the tabs element can come in very handy in specific situations. Now this is how it works. You have this cool hover effect, okay, and then if you click on now. Right from the onset, you don't see any tab contents. And normally, when you have a tab, there's a default initial tab content that shows, but this, the tab content is completely hidden. And now when you click it, you have the tab content shows up in a full screen. Of course, still scrollable. You can still scroll the side, but then you have this active state on the one you clicked. But if you turn it off, it closes and scrolls to bring the tab content, or rather the tabs, in view. So let's look at that again. So you see that if I close this, it scrolls to bring the tabs in view, scrolls to bring the tab content, just like that. And it is responsive. So if I go here to mobile, okay, you can see if I click here, it brings up that, it brings it back just like that. So it doesn't matter if you are scrolling away, if you close this, it brings everything back in view. So this is one way you can implement the tabs element, and we're going to see how to do that. Here I have a page layout that we're going to use to implement this tabs design. So I want to place that tab between this feature and then this CTA 3. Okay, so I'm just going to place a section in between there, and that will be where my tab content will be. So I'm just going to rename that to tabs. That's all. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to drop in a div, okay, inside that section. So we have a div, and then I want to center it. Okay, so that is the div. I've centered it, and now with this div I'm going to drop in a tab element. So just go drop in tabs, and there you have it. Now I'm just going to rename it. Okay, now I want to center it also, so I'm gonna just center that. Now I'm gonna go to my now what the first thing I want to do is we want to start by hiding the first tab element and the first tab content. Okay, so what I'm going to do, because now just like we've seen in our design, for the first tab content to be hidden, also the first tab has to be hidden. So what I'm going to do is to I'm going to delete this and leave only two. I'm going to go to the content, okay, and then I'll delete this last one and leave only two. Now the first one, we're going to select the ID of the first one, okay, and then I'm going to go to layout, display none. Now you can see it's not displaying, and then I'm going to go to the first tab content, okay, and then go to the ID, layout, display none. Of course you could go layout, display none. So you see now if I click here, I only have the tab 2, okay, content. The tab 1 and the tab 1 content is hidden. So now let me save this, and then if I preview on the front end how it looks like, we're going to see that we have just this tab, okay, and no content. Then when we click, the content shows up. All right, okay, let's continue. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to style our tab. Okay, so I'm going to start by selecting this the text here. I'm going to give it a class. I'm going to give it a class of tab, okay, text. All right, and I'm going to wrap it with a div, okay, and then I'm going to call it tab, okay, title, or tab text wrapper. Okay, all right, now I'm gonna drop an image inside the tab element. I'm gonna make it 400 pixel, okay, and then I'm gonna go back to the tab element, and let's put this image at the top. All right, and I want to center this. Now I'm working with the class. Now when you're working with tabs, you have to be careful what you're working with, okay? Is it the class? Is it the ID? Is it on the active state? So you have to be careful. So I'm just going to center this now. And then still on the class, I'm going to go to size and spacing, okay, and I'm going to turn off the padding. I don't want the padding. Now for this div here, I want it to be 100% width, okay, and then I want to set the background color to the blue. All right, and that is we are on the class there, and then I'm going to select this text. Or still on the class, want to make it white, okay, and maybe a font family of Poppins. Then maybe a font weight of 600, and then I'm gonna go to typography, okay, and I want to make it uppercase. All right, okay, and for this div, I'm going to just centralize everything. Now, well, let me just centralize from this text, okay. I'm gonna go to layout, size and spacing, auto, margin left and right, auto, so it's gonna centralize that. I'm just gonna change the text, let's see, change the text to, let's say, what was there, say development, okay, yep, development, and the letter spacing to 1, okay. All right, that's cool. Now we need some padding here, so I'm gonna go there and then give it a padding of, let's say, maybe 8 pixel all around. That looks good. Then for the image, we're gonna select an image from the library, so I'm gonna choose this, that, yeah, so I have that. And then for my tab class, I want to give it a 20 pixel border all around. Now I have a 20 pixel border, but the elements inside it are still showing through. So I'm going to go to layout, and then I'm going to set the overflow to hidden, and that solves that. Let me save. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to create the hover effect, okay, for it. Now when I hover, I want it to grow. So the whole tab, I want it to grow. So I'm going to select that tab. I'm going to go to hover. Then I'm going to go to effect, like advanced effect, transform. I'm going to add a transform of scale, all right, and then I want to scale it by 1.1 on both axes. All right, then I'm going to go back to the original. I'm going to go to effect, transition. I want it to be in the transition of 0.3, so it moves like that. Now I want the image to also grow, okay. Now I'm going to select and add. Now what I want to do here is this: when I hover on these tabs, I want the image inside it to also grow, okay. So I'm going to add an active state that says hover image. So what I'm saying is, when I hover on this class, target the image. So that is an active. The transition duration, I'm just still going to make it 3, but then I'm going to go back to effect, transform, and add the transformation of scale also. All right, so you can see that the image grows, but then of course our image doesn't have a transition, okay. So I'm going to go back to the image and then set a transition for the image. All right, I'm going to give it a 0. Now let's give it a 0.3. Okay, so what I want here is some form of inertia, okay. When I hover on it, okay, I want the image to keep growing after the tab, has finished growing, so it gives it an inertia. So I want that transition to be like maybe 1 second. You see, so it gives it that feeling of inertia, okay. All right, okay, so that's cool. I also want the tab text to grow, I want to have some hover effects on that also, but I'm still going to go back to the tabs. All right, and then I'm going to create another custom state, hover, okay, tab underscore text. All right, now that's supposed to be double underscore, but let's just go along with that. So what I'm going to do is just change the letter spacing to 4. So you can see that, but there's no transition, so I'm going to go back to that text, and then I'm going to give it a transition of, let's say, 0.4. All right, now let's take a look at how it looks at the front end. All right, so I have this. Now something is not right here. So this image is on top, okay? Yep, the image is on top. Now I'm going to move this div. All right, so it doesn't really matter. Now the problem is if I move it there, we're still going to have the problem. So what I'm going to do here is now I have to set this div to be absolutely positioned so the image, so it can be on top of the image. So the first thing I want to do is go to the tab class and make sure I set it to position relative. Now because the parent has to be relative, so now I'm going to go here and set it to position absolute. I'm going to take bottom, right, and left 0. So that should solve our problem. Now I'm going to save that and take a look at it again one more time. All right, so you see that this looks okay, it looks good. All right, so you see that inertia effect, okay, the image grows, okay. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add we're going to design our tab content now. So I'm going to go to the tab content, okay, and what I want to do is to set the width to 100% viewport width. So I'm just going to set it to 100% 100 viewport width, okay, and then I want to make sure that I center that that tab content. And then for the actual tab content, I'm going to also, now I'm working with the class, so I'm also going to center the content. All right, so that is centered. And then for the height, I want it to be 100% viewport height. So I'm going to go to that, but I'm going to say that with the minimum height. So because that's best practice, okay. So minimum height, I have 100% viewport. Now let's go back to that, and then I want to center this text, okay. And then I'm going to change this text to, let's say, now I want to give it a class first of all. So I'm going to give it a class of tab content. Now I think I already have that class and it already has a style, okay. So that style is applied. I just increase the font, okay, and that's basically it. And I changed the color. So so that is the class I'm gonna use for that text, okay. So for the tab content, I'm gonna go to the ID. I want to give it a background image that matches this, okay. So go there, background, select the same image, and then we have the background image. And then for I'm gonna just, you know, change it to cover, okay, and then top left I'm gonna make it 50-50, okay, no repeat. So that's it. And then I want to add overlay, okay. So we can see the content. All right, now this is my design, okay. Depending on whatever you want to put in here, you can do your own design, okay. Now I'm gonna save that. So let's see what happens. I'm gonna refresh this. So when I click on it, so that shows up, okay. That's cool, that shows up. Now of course we can't close it now, so let's look at that. I want to add an icon, okay. So I'm gonna add an icon, and then let's go to linear. I want something that's like cross, yeah, like that. And now this icon, I think I'm gonna give it a class of close tab content, okay. So I want to give it a class of close tab content. So this is going to close the tab content. Let me color it, okay. Reduce the size of the icon. All right, and probably give it a hover state where this is a bit different. I guess the original should be dimmer, okay. So the hover will be bright, okay. Now I want it to have a cursor, a pointer cursor, okay. So I'm gonna go to the CSS. I'm just gonna say cursor pointer, and then that's gonna give me the hand. All right, now I want to position this absolutely at the top right corner, or better at the bottom. So what I'm gonna do, first of all, I'm gonna wrap it with a div, okay, and then I'm gonna call it close. All right, Okay, and so I think we should position this div absolutely. Okay, inside there I want to add a text, and then I'm just gonna call that close, so it's gonna be obvious. And that text, let's just work directly with it. I don't want to give it a class. Let's move fast. Normally I should give it a class, but I think we should be fine. Hope this doesn't come back to haunt us. No, letter spacing should be 2, and then the font size should be 10. Okay, of course I want to centralize this. Okay, and then maybe give the text a top margin of, let's say, 8 pixel. All right. Okay, so the close button is there, and now I want to absolutely position this to the bottom. Now let's make sure that the tab content is relative. Did we do that? So I'm making the tab content, the parent element, relative. I'm going to go here and set this to absolute, and then bottom I'm going to give it a 24 pixel from the bottom. All right, and the left and the right I'm going to give it left, let's try 25% here and 25% here. So that is another trick to get stuff to center, okay, especially because it's transparent. So I think that works across the board. So we remember in our layer technique we did 50%, and then we go into transform the X to -50, but this is another technique. So you're basically moving it 25%, and that centers this. All right. Okay, so so that's it. So how do we close this stuff? All right, let me just change this text to correspond with this development. Okay, all right, I'm just gonna make sure that I set that to uppercase. Okay, maybe a line. Okay, so now before we close it, okay, what I want to do is to set up every other thing that we need to set up without the code. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want a situation when we click the close button, okay, it scrolls back up here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to wrap this with a link wrapper. Okay, so I'm going to wrap that with a link wrapper. Okay, of course. And now this is wrapped in a link wrapper. Now when we click on that link wrapper, we want it to scroll all the way up to the tab. Okay, these tabs, but I would prefer it scrolls to the tab wrapper. Okay, and for that tab wrapper I'd like to give it a padding top of, let's say, 24 pixels, so we have some offset. Okay, and then maybe 24 pixel to the bottom. Yep, it really doesn't seem to do anything. Let's just leave it like that for now. Oh yeah, so okay, that's it. Okay, so we need that offset, okay, just in case there's any elements. And then okay, now I want to take the ID, so I'm just gonna call it, to make it easy, I'm just gonna call it the tabs wrapper. Okay, oh, that's not the right way. I need no space. Okay, all right, so I rename that. Now I'm gonna copy that, okay, and then I'm gonna come to my link wrapper and set it as an anchor link. Okay, so that when we click on that link wrapper, it scrolls. You see what happens? It scrolls all the way up there. Okay, now we need something that will also make it such that once we click the tab, it scrolls to the tab content. And how do we do that? Now, so what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to add an element that we will need, okay, because we can't, if we let me save what we have done so far. If we attempt to wrap any of this, we need the whole element to be active, like to be a link anchor to this. So if we attempt to wrap the image with a link wrapper, we're probably gonna have some issues where if we want to click and we click on top of this, okay, we may not have the result. So I'm going to undo that. Now if we are wrapping the whole tab with a link wrapper, excuse me, that is I duplicated it. Now if I'm wrapping that, so you can see that that is wrapped with a link wrapper, but it could also have some repercussions. But let's try that, because that's not what I did in my example, but I'm gonna try that and see if it's gonna work. Okay, let me so we're gonna find the tab contents. We're gonna find the ID for it. Okay, I'm just gonna call it tab contents. All right, so I've changed the name of that, and then we are changing the ID. Remember the ID. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to that this tab that is wrapped in a link wrapper, and then I'm gonna paste that. Okay, remember to include the hash. So now if I click on this, it opens the tab, and so let's look at it if it actually opens the tab. Okay. All right, so so something weird is happening here. So there's really something weird is happening. So it didn't open the tab. Okay, so so you see that's a problem. So wrapping that with a link wrapper did not help. Okay, so I'm going to take it outside of that link wrapper. Okay, and then that link wrapper, I'm going to bring that link wrapper inside here. Let's just delete that link wrapper. Okay, I'm going to create an element, a div inside it. Okay, and then that div is I'm going to call it content anchor. All right, so I'm going to call it content anchor. I'm also going to give it a class of content anchor. All right, now what I want is I want this to be I want it to be absolutely positioned and fill in the whole, you know, the whole tab. Okay, so to do that, of course, I'm going to go to layout, absolutely positioned, and I'm just going to say top 0 0 0 and 0. So that is going to make it fill in. Okay, and that anchor, I'm going to wrap that anchor. I'm going to wrap that anchor with a link wrapper. Okay, so I've wrapped it with a link wrapper, and then I'm going to just give it that tab content URL. Okay, so let's just confirm that our tab content had that class. So I think we may have mistakenly named our tab content in the wrong way. So I can't remember, because we're supposed to have that class. Okay, this is supposed to be the tab content class. For some reason we did not get it, so I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna just make it tab content. All right, and then if I click here, tab content. So if I click there, you know, it comes. So let's see what it looks like on the front end. All right, so now what happens when we click this? It moves all the way. See, it hasn't closed, but at least it moves. Okay, so this makes this move into view, and this makes this move into view. That is good progress. So the next thing we're going to do is to actually close this when this is clicked. Okay, so you see that now. All right, to close this, we're going to start with our code block. All right, so I already have a code block here, okay, with some JavaScript here. All right, so what I'm going to do is, let me just take this out, and then I'm going to paste a JavaScript with this and explain what it does. Let's save that for now, and then we're going to go through the script, okay, to see what it does. I think it's very straightforward. The first line here says document.add event listener. Okay, now what this does is it adds an event listener to listen for when all the elements on the page are completely loaded, and then we're going to create variables for the different element that we have on the page. So the first variable we have here is the close tabs. So this takes care of the element that will close the tab, and the class for that element. We're selecting all of them because we're using query selector all, because we're going to have more than one, because we're going to have like 3 tabs. All right, and then the class for that was close tab content. Okay, let's take a look at it again. What was that class? Let's see. So close tab content. Yep, so that is it. And then now we're going to also create a variable for tab contents. Okay, the different tab contents. Okay, and we're going to select Oxy tab content. This is a standard Oxygen class, so you don't need to change this. So we're going to also select tabs. Okay, we're going to select this, create a variable for the tabs, and then we're going to select all the tabs, and the tabs have this class. So I'm going to check for the class of the tab. Okay, so this is the tab of the class. All right, so I'm just going to copy that and go to that code block and paste that class. All right, I'm going to save this. So the next thing we're doing is now we are going to select this variable, and we're going to use a for each loop. Okay, and go through each of these the close tab element. Okay, all right, which is actually the icon that we set to close the tab content. All right, so we're going to loop through each of them and then listen for a click and then call a function that we're going to create, and that function is called close tab content. Okay, and then we're creating this function here, and then what we are saying is that go through all the tab content. You know, we're looping through all the tab content, and then add a class of Oxy tab content hidden. Now this class is a standard Oxygen class. Now whenever you're working with tabs, you know, Oxygen tabs, you realize that when you click a particular tab and then you click the next one, the previous tab has to hide for the next one to show. To be able to hide the previous tab, Oxygen adds a class of Oxy tab content content hidden to the previous tab content for it to be hidden. So this is the class that Oxygen uses to hide the tab contents that it wants to hide. So we are just using that class. It is a standard Oxygen class. Okay, and then so that's basically it. Then for this, I'm gonna explain this later. Okay, so let's just go along. Now I think we basically have what we need here. So let's see if this is gonna work. I'm gonna look at this at the front end and let's see if it works. So I'm gonna refresh this. All right, so and then okay, so that works. So we click this, it opens, and we click this, it closes. So that's basically what the code does. Now now another thing is we need to know, now if we have 3 tabs, we need to know, because we're going to be able to scroll, we need to know which one is currently open, and that means we need to have an active state. So what is going to happen is this. Now let me comment this code out, because we want to see the importance of this code. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. Now I need an active state to this tab. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the active class, and then I want to give it a border of 5 pixels solid, and that. Okay, so that is the active state. Okay, now let me quickly select the tab class. All right, and we're going to duplicate this 3. Okay, so we want to have our 3 tabs. It really doesn't matter what class we're selecting. Okay, just select the right element. I'm gonna just do that too. Okay, and I'm gonna select the class now. I want to give it a margin round of 5 pixels, so space them out. And then okay, so you see what is happening here. That now if I hover on this, see what is happening? It's still under. So for the hover state, I want to set a z index of 1, so that when I hover on it, see, it comes on top. So I want the z index for each of them to change on hover, so it always remain on top. Okay, now I'll select that. Now we don't have any. Okay, so what happens is this. I remember that I think, yeah, this tab content, you see, we're supposed to have this as the tab. This is the tab's content, and this is the tab. Okay, so that's where we mistakenly put. Good enough, we name these tabs. All right, so that is different. Okay, so we don't have any tab, content for this one. But the problem here is that now when I hover on this, it just blends into this one. So I want to make sure that my tab has a border white, so it will, you know, just differentiate between the two. So I'm gonna go to border solid width, so gonna give it like 3 and the color white. Okay, so you see there that the tab has a white border, so it differentiates between the two. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and change these colors. Now look at what happens here. Because we don't have a tab for this second, now we click it, it goes to the top. I think that's what the problem we had the last time, except that in that one we actually had a tab. Okay, so but the tab wasn't the tab content wasn't activating. What I'm trying to say is that we actually had a tab content, but it wasn't activating because the link wrapper interfered with this, you know, tab activating the content. All right, so what we're going to do now is I want to change this. I want to change the image. Okay, so I'm going to click that image and change it to this. And then for the next one, I want to change the image to this. All right, so we have different images. And then for the text, okay, for the text for this one, I'm just going to change it to maybe SEO. And then for the text here, I'm going to change this to, let's say, UI/UX. Okay, and then we need the corresponding tab content for. Now I think this image is shorter than the others, so we may have to do something about the image. So I'm going to select the image. Bad enough we didn't give the images class. Okay, so but for this one I'm just going to select this particular image, and then I'm going to give it a height of 100%. All right, that fix that. Now if you're going to have an image that's going to stretch, it would be a good time to go and add object fit cover. Okay, so that will solve that. Now I should have given this image a class, so it's going to affect all of them, but let's just go along. Okay, all right, so what next? What are we doing next? We want to create a corresponding, you know, tab content for these two tabs. So I'm going to click on this. Okay, and I'm going to just add 2 more. Okay, so we have now remember the first one is the hidden one, so we need 3. So I'm going to select this, okay, the second one, and that second one I'm going to go to the ID and change the background to the corresponding image. And the third one I'll do the same, the ID, change the background to the corresponding image. So when we click on it, we have the corresponding image. Now this keeps going all the way to the top, and I don't seem to know why. Okay, so that's the problem. What we had here was tabs content. Okay, but the anchor is tab, so we have to change that. Go back to the anchor and change that to tab. All right. Okay, so that should work as expected. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to the front end, refresh, and then I'm going to click that. Now, when we come up, you can see the active one that with the blue border. So it's always easy to know when you come back up which one is active. And you see we have the active one, but the problem is this. Now when we close this or we click on this, it's not closing. Let's see, why isn't it closing? It was closing before. Okay, let's go back and see what is going on here. So let's go back to our code. Oh yeah, okay, see what the problem is. When we commented out this code, okay, we put the comment at the wrong place. So this is supposed to cover from here to here. Okay, so I'm just gonna, it's just something weird about sometimes in this code stuff. All right, so I'm gonna just put that here. So that is where we're supposed to comment out. Like, so I guess that's why it didn't close. There was a problem. I made a mistake there. So let's refresh that. All right. So that was a problem. We put the wrong thing in our code. So yeah, so this works. So you can see, so and particularly for mobile, where if you click and then you're scrolling back, you need to know which one was active. Now for mobile, let's just quickly fix this. I'm gonna go there at this breakpoint. I think we're gonna do it at this breakpoint. Okay, let's just do it at this breakpoint. So I'm gonna select the tabs. Okay, the tabs, and just all right, so that's basically it. And then okay, save that, refresh. So yeah, we have that. Now if I click this, I finish reading what I want and close. But in a situation where I didn't close it and I scroll back up, I still need to know that this is what was active. Now the problem is, once I close it, that active class still remains. And in a situation where if I close this, okay, if I close this, it takes off the active class from there. Okay, so that's the problem. And so to do that, so I'm going to the code block, okay, and I'm gonna add this code that I just commented out. Oh, what did I just do? Okay, so I'm going to the tab, okay, still under the function close tab content. So I'm gonna add that for each tab, all right, go through each tab and then remove the active class. So let's see what an active class is here. This is the name of an active class. So I'm gonna copy that and then go back to the code block and just paste that active class there. So I'm gonna save it and check it out at the front end. Let's refresh that and close this. Now if I click that, you see we have that active class, but when I close it, it removes that active class. So this looks good. See that again. All right, you finish reading what you want, you close it, and let's see the mobile. The same thing. You close it, you read, maybe you scroll, and all right, this is what I'm reading. This is the active state, and yep. So that works very well. So that is the end of our tutorial. I'm going to put the link to that code in the description, so you check it out and try to see if you can build something and even improve on what you have you have done. And I want to also say that if you enjoyed the tutorial, please hit the like button and also subscribe, hit the notification bell for more tutorials. I have a lineup of tutorials. Let me just show you. This is viewport aware tab, which we have done, and then we have already finished this, and we're going to go into part 3. And the next thing upcoming, not the next, but is in plan, is I'm gonna do a tutorial on how to build the Editor X website. Now if you go to Editor X, okay, here's the Editor X website. I love this website, so you see what happens here. Okay, so particularly this first section. I mean, these other ones, there are things that you could easily do, but all these are pretty simple. Okay, but this first section, I was so blown away when I saw it. Okay, and I think we should give it a go and see how this can be done in Oxygen. So this is what I did. Okay, and I'm going to do a tutorial about that. Then we're going to take a look at what has been disturbing. A lot of people have been looking for this solution, active state now on custom link items. So I have a one-page layout here. Okay, so we're going to do that active state, and we're going to also this is a one page that uses the WordPress menu, but unfortunately the WordPress menu active state doesn't work on a one page setup. So we're going to see how we can make that happen, and we're going to also see how we're going to do like 3 different types if you're using a link wrapper, and also if you simply have an element on the page and when you want to click it, you want to add the active state. We're going to look at that also. So thank you for watching. I hope you're looking forward to more tutorials. Have a great day. Bye.